Welcome back to the studio, and I should probably talk a little bit slower today because today I'm going to be talking about the idea of slowness, the slow movement. I think the reason this is on my mind right now, well, it's massively relevant to this whole thing that we talk about here, about journaling, notebooks, taking pleasure in things like paper and pens and inks and stationery, of doing things by hand. So it's a theme already present on this channel, the theme of this channel and the other channels you watch and the other activities that we're all involved in. But I took part in a film festival at the weekend called the Slow Film Festival, and it's such a wonderful thing. I was there to firstly host a Q&A with a wonderful filmmaker called John Smith, who was a massive inspiration for me going back 25 years really, I guess, when my sister first introduced me to his work. She was at art school. John's an artist filmmaker, and I'm not going to go on about the films of John Smith. Look him up yourself, John Smith. Look up a film called The Black Tower, for example. And we were talking about John's film called Home Sweet, which is 3 chapters. It's actually 4 shots. It was intended to be 3 shots. Each one is 33 minutes long, which I think is the duration of a mini DV tape. The film was shot, I'm going to try and remember the year, in 1993 and 1994 in a house very close to here. It's a brilliant example of slow cinema, where each shot is, like I say, a continuous shot examining the fine details of John's house, which is falling apart. It was a kind of short life artist housing that John moved into in 1982 and actually ended up being there for 10 years or 12 years as it turned out. But the form of the film very much is consistent with that idea of slow and slowness before it had been codified as such. And I first encountered the slow movement in Italy when I was living in Italy. Oh, actually, before I lived in Italy, when I first properly started visiting there in the late 90s with my wife, who's half Italian. And so we visited where her parents were living at the time. And they had a thing there called agroturismo, I think it was called. Agroturismo. I'm not sure. Well, I probably completely massacred that, haven't I? The idea there was, I think it was a government subsidy for restaurants, or places, food type places, so to speak. So they could be, I say food type places, they could be like hotels where you could eat as well, but where they grew the food and then cooked it for you. And so there was some sort of incentive to do that. Obviously Italy is a place where they really do take a great deal of pleasure in a slower way of life. They love taking time over their meals, don't they? And the meals are a collective experience. It's also a fantastic place for papers as well. I have a wonderful Fabriano notebook, and we talked a bit about Fabriano notebooks in a previous video, didn't we? And they make lovely paper. Well, this place where my wife's parents were living, that is one of the major paper producing places in Italy. It's a village near a town called Pescia, and Pescia being near Lucca on a river, and they made a lot of paper there. I don't know if Fabriano make their paper there. It's possible, because that's where Hayley bought me the notebook on a trip to that area, so it's possible. On the other hand, she might have just bought it in Pisa Airport. But the idea of slow food, it was partly like the labelling of it like that was a reaction apparently to the opening of a McDonald's in, I think, Piazza di Spagna in Rome in 1986, which is fast food. For fast food, here's slow food, but it's also about a way of life, isn't it? A way of life of being a lot more mindful, a lot more intentional, and slower, basically. Yeah, not doing everything the quickest way, not accepting the idea that quicker is better, or in fact even that optimizing is better. Well, a related category is productivity, isn't it? And there's obviously a lot of overlaps between using notebooks, paper organizers, so to speak, and productivity and optimization. I, for example, have been using a planner again this year, and I've loved it to help me be better organized. This works so much better than my digital version, my iCal. I have to use them together, but this is better. So obviously I'm not against I need to be better organised so I can do what I need to get done. I'm trying to avoid saying do more, because doing more isn't always doing better. And I think that's part of the whole idea behind the slow movement, but also moving at a slower speed through life, I think, is really important. And doing more things by hand, writing more by hand. I mean, I've always written in a pocket notebook, and I've often done a lot of my work when I've had like organised jobs, did a lot of that by hand, and then would only type it up when I needed to share it with other people. Sometimes much to their frustration, because they'd want to see it at an earlier stage, and I go, I'll have to write it up for you. And actually, just earlier on today, I was working on my next book, and I was, spending some time with my son, reading the new Alan Moore novel. I was just looking around for the Alan Moore novel there. Reading the new Alan Moore novel, The Great When. I left it downstairs. Great book, by the way. My son was playing a game, and I sat there, and I just actually had an idea for the book, and I just got my notebook, and I started handwriting the next chapter of the book I'm working on at the moment. And it's great, and this book actually now contains quite a lot of the early part, not quite a lot of the book. So there isn't quite a lot of the book yet, but quite a lot of the early part of the book is actually handwritten in here. And I like that process now. The idea of slowness is really with me right now, and I really do want to slow down more in my work. I feel like I am, actually. I feel like I am slowing down more. I filmed a walk yesterday for my other channel, John Rogers Walks, and it was following a river, but the river, the first place you can really see it above ground is near an old manor house. And before, I just saw it as a start point in the walk, an annoyance in a way, because it's also a museum, and I thought, okay, that'll be a distraction for me. But then the more I read about it in this book here, published in 1927, so it's nearly 100 years old, this book, which I love that. Go into the places that he wrote about 100 years ago, and I did a lot of that in my first book, This Other London, and I collected together a bunch of books from this era and revisited those landscapes. It's a little bit more than that, but that was at the heart of it. And this time around, I thought, I'm going to savour visiting Headstone Manor and not see it as something which is going to take up time, which is going to stop me walking more of the river that was the original idea for the walk. And just by allowing myself to dwell longer in that beautiful place, a beautiful 14th century manor house. The manor house was built in 1310. It's still got the original moat filled up. You find moats around the place, but they rarely have the water in them completely, or they only have part of the water in there. I've just realised there is an anomaly or a contradiction to the idea that this is the oldest filled moat in Middlesex. A bit obscure for this channel, but it shows the way the thought process works. So Maxwell actually talks about the garden that sits within this moat in the grounds of this beautiful big old Grange farmhouse, 14th century farmhouse, as being a place that inspires daydreaming, or a place of daydreams. And I just thought, yeah, I'm going to let myself just do that. Although I'm out here to film a walk along a river and try and walk, if not the whole river, certainly as much as I can, it transformed that from just being, I'm going to dwell in this place, dwell in this space, and just occupy it and enjoy the feelings. And I got overwhelmed with nostalgia at one point for a walk I'd done in 2009. And it was really funny when I looked at that again today, because it was near where I walked yesterday. When I looked at that, we only walked a mile of that river, and that was a really short river. So it was really lovely. And so I did just take it steady. And, you know, every now and again I would sit on a bench and just enjoy the bird song, get a lot of bird song along those rivers. And it was just a really, really magical experience. And as a consequence, I wrote an awful lot more in my notebook. I kept my notebook in my pocket. I frequently just took it out to capture what I was thinking, what I was feeling, not stuff for the video at all, just stuff that I wanted to write, and, you know, just through inhabiting a place and moving through it slowly, moving through time slowly, a bit like the river. You could draw a parallel there to the river Is that a bit hackneyed to do that, to meander like a river meanders, or is that just quite nicely poetic? So slowness is going to be a bit of a watchword for me going forward. And like I say, I know that the people that are coming here to watch these videos are already on that kind of train, because, you know, that's part of this appreciation for these things: notebooks, pens, writing, the art of writing, and all the things that go with it. It's not, we're not doing that to move quicker and faster in the mistaken belief that quicker and faster is better. So that's just a few thoughts on slowness that I wanted to share with you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me as I kind of work that out as I'm thinking about it, So, as I like to say, I look forward to seeing you on the next page.